What's up, everybody? This is Zach
and Derek
with the Nerd Cave. That's the name of the show. We've christened it, guys, like the Titanic, but it ain't going down. It ain't going down.
it's not the highly favored.
Yes, by Shuhei and God himself. Guys, we're so glad that you're here joining us on this. Not inaugural. This is our second. If you missed the first episode, go check our game highlights of 2020. Me and Derek, we dove deep. We were just pulling all the junk that 2020 was. We're just like this, and we're like, here's the good stuff. Exactly, man. This is the positivity place. This is the good place. We're gonna call stuff out, but we're gonna be nice about it. We're gonna be nice about it.
Yep.
Nice about it.
As best as we can, anyway.
Yeah. Some things will still be nice. We'll be nice to the people, but not nice to the other things. But anyway, guys, we hope that you're having an awesome day. Make sure that you hit that like button and make sure you go over to twitch.tv/NerdCaveNetwork. Follow us there and check out our live streams every Monday, Thursday at 7 p.m. and Saturday at 10 a.m. where you get to see my beautiful face doing all sorts of crazy stuff. So, Derek, let's get into the episode. Yes. AMD is expecting delays, not just on one console, but two. The Xbox SX, whatever they're going to call it, that abomination of naming, whoever named that, and the PS5 through the first half of 2021. What did you take on that?
Well, and you know what I didn't leave out too is like there's like a certain like new computer chip that's like was coming out that came out last year that they're also expecting a shortage on. It's sad, but it's also expected in the seeing as how COVID is still running rampant through into 2021. I expected, and I had read stuff last year that Xbox and both PlayStation were hoping to get consoles out to stores again by maybe February, and that's now looking like it's not going to happen. But it's interesting because like sites like GameStop and other Walmart and other like retail stores putting them up on the website, but at least I don't know about the rest of them, but at least the GameStop are selling them as bundles. That you get like games or like an extra controller or like the online services.
I hate because it's like, I would love to be able to buy one of these, but it's like, let's double the price of this thing.
Yeah, right. But it's still better than the scalper selling just the console for like $1,500 by itself.
True.
So, but the fact that they're expecting it to go into like summer, like the shortage thing is crazy, which means production, because a lot of the parts get sent overseas from other parts of the world, so that means those places are experiencing worse probably pandemic or epidemics of COVID than we are, even though the US is high. But the fact that it's going to go through the half of the year, but it still raises the question, how are they able to put it online but still can't get it to retail stores? Because the whole argument is like, oh, they're beating scalpers. At the same time, my argument is, how you also beat scalpers? Sending them to stores.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, if you've got it, put it in your stores. Like, I know they're trying to stop the spread and all this kind of stuff, but at the same time, it's like, if you want to avoid scalping, you want to avoid, all of this, and you want to know exactly like how, like, I know one thing that was a problem was they were selling consoles that they didn't have, and this was multiple retailers. It's like, if you got them, they're in stores. If they're not there, it's sold out. I'm sorry, and it's like, we've got to be smart about this and really learn how to handle this, because like yes, there are going to be shortages because the working environments are changing constantly and everything. So it's like, how are they handling this at the actual factories and everything? Like, are they 6 feet apart? Are they limiting their numbers? Like, what's actually going on? Or are they just cramming people in there trying to get these chips made? We don't really know.
Yeah, and here's the the other argument is like, oh, well, we don't want to send them to stores that are like in small towns and they just sit there on shelves when we could be making money, and not send enough to stores that are selling through them like the day they get them in. Another way to combat that is, okay, you want to go to that argument? find out where your hotbed stores are and send them. Like you're
Yeah.
not going to have enough regardless, so just send them. That way you sell out,
Hmm.
you still make your money back,
Oh yeah.
and then okay, then you're done with it. And okay, then the argument, but then you have the argument of, all right, well, if you just keep sending them to these certain stores, you're going to lose business elsewhere. What else is new? You're not
Yeah.
going to make money by them just saying, like, you're going to make, and that's the counter argument to all this, right? Is at the end of the day, they don't care about the shortages because when they do have stock, the companies are just going to say, "Oh, we're still selling through. We're making our money. We don't care." You know?
Yeah. Yeah. It goes back to like, regardless, the consumer is like the not the first concern, not the second, not the third. It's their money and their shareholders and all of this. So like, when you think about it, it's like this is not a good situation to begin with. And I think, you know, there have been problems with the whole, launching of any of the stuff, everything, but it's like we are where we're at right now, and we just got to make the best
Where
of
we
it.
living.
Yeah. And it's just like, we just got to be smart about it and just go from there. Like, we can't really do anything about it. And if you don't want to shop one place and you see that they're not doing something right, then hey, take your money elsewhere. Let your wallet speak.
I was about to say, vote with your wallet.
Mm-hmm. Vote with your wallet.
Oh, and the only other thing I'll say is that, we, again, to combat scalpers, the last year, when online really took off and sales online really started
Mm,
amping up, they saw the issue with how fast scalpers were accruing these consoles at any
yeah.
given time they put it up. So they're just like being or like being as short notice as possible and being like, all
Yeah.
right, in 5 minutes, we're putting up consoles. But a lot of companies talked about, hey, we need to refine our online
Oh
like
yeah.
purchasing and have like, and they talked about all these like parameters and steps. It's like, all right, you can only use the this credit card at this site once, and then
Yeah.
like, and then you can't use it multiple times on the same
Yeah.
site in this given day. Where are those? Like, if
Yeah.
you're, don't just give me lip service, like show me action. I see better than I hear. And it's like, if where are those parameters? Like, I understand if you're still fine tuning them out and seeing how well it's going to go, if you're focus grouping them, but do it. Don't just speak about it. Like, it's, if this is going to be the foreseeable future for at least the next 6 months, you need to get the ball rolling on that.
Yeah, you've got to have like things in place for this to run smoothly because people are annoyed already that life is different. And it's like, you've got to make it where people can, as best as possible. Like, I know we're in a different time and all of that, but it's like we need to make it as best as possible. Like, we shouldn't make it harder or easier for bad actors to get things that they shouldn't be getting. Like,
Yeah.
someone should not be able to buy 200 consoles and then scalp people off of that. It should be evenly distributed throughout. But hopefully they'll, instead of just, oh well, we're going to take care of it, they'll actually do it. Speaking of actually taking care of it, we are apparently going to get monthly Halo Infinite updates, and I'm curious to see what this actually means, because it is a double-edged sword here. Because I feel that 343 Studios, they made the right decision by postponing Infinite coming out, but that it should have never even been an option to come out if it looked that bad. Like,
exactly. Like I
the
said.
higher ups in the studio should have been like, this isn't good enough. And even the Xbox side should have been like, yeah, we can't let you put this out because this is like our flagship game. It's like, like,
put Xbox on the map.
exactly. It's like this is a make or break kind of deal. Like, I know there's a lot of other good games, but Xbox has done a really good job of getting new studios into it, so it's not having to rely on the old guard like Gears and Halo. Because I think, like, as much as I love those games, and I loved Gears 5, and so no one get me wrong when I say this, I feel like those games were of a different time, and have a different feel. It feels more nostalgic than like I'm excited to see where it's going further. You know, it's like, oh, I get to go back and visit these characters. So that, you know, it's like they do have to pull in new stuff. But back to the monthly updates, like what do you think about this? Like, how do you think this should be handled? Do they, you know, like, what are you thinking, Derek?
Well, it's all going to be because supposedly in the article it says the first drop is going to be this week. Now, whether that's later today, whether that's tomorrow, whether that's Saturday, who knows? How is this going to look like? Because we can't get, obviously, you know, the further we get to release, or the further we get from the last part of what, you know, last bit of what we saw of the game, the more we're going to need. All right, now quit giving me just verbal updates or putting out articles, like written articles. I need to see it. I need to see where
Mm-hmm.
you're at. I don't think we get that this month. I don't think we get that next month. I think we, at the earliest, we get that April or May. I think that once they have something to show, which we're both in agreement of, don't show me something if you're not ready to show it.
Yeah.
Just like don't put a date on things if you're not ready, if you're not going to
Yeah.
commit to that.
Yeah.
But side note, you saw Returnal got delayed, right?
What got delayed?
Returnal, that
Returnal.
Housemarque game. Housemarque's new game.
I'm trying to remember what it looks like.
Yeah, but that got delayed a month. But anyway,
Okay.
But anyway, how is this going to look? Like these updates, are you just going to drip feed? Because, like you said, it's a two-edged sword.
Mm-hmm.
Giving out too much every month could make fans fatigued and not believe in what they're doing. Like, you know, you delayed it a year to work on it. Cool. But now if you keep doing stuff and we keep seeing stuff that we don't like, what are you going to do then? Because if you delay it again, you're going to meet with criticism from both sides. You're met with criticism like, oh, make the game we want. But then it's like, all right, now you're just pandering to fans just to make sure that all the money, like you get as much money as you can from release day.
Yeah.
But at the same go ahead.
I think it's interesting because like it is, you know, instead of waiting for it to get out into people's hands and then get feedback, you know, from the fans, like it is something that, you know, it's like a big ship. Like you can't turn it fast, but like it can be guided more towards like what the fans are looking for. I think, you know, pandering to the fans is also not a good thing. I think making art, there's times where you need to stand your ground and do what you think is best. You know, but like I said, it is a two-edged sword on this. I think, you know, the dev diaries are a good way to do it, you know, like have monthly, you know, it's like, you know, we've heard your concerns. We're really, you know, putting in the work for it, you know, and like these are like our, you know, kind of the roadmap leading up to it. I know a lot of people's like, oh, this is the content roadmap of, you know, the next 9 months for this game or whatever after it releases. But it's like, here is the roadmap for us. These are the goals that we are trying to achieve within this time. And, you know, it's just be like, if someone is upfront and honest with me, I respect them so much because it's like,
100%.
You know, it's like, hey, we are doing something that's very difficult because like this, like we're trying to develop a game. And we talked about this last week with CD Projekt Red and all of that last week. And what was the game that we talked about that got delayed last week? Harry Potter,
Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah, Hogwarts Legacy. It's like, you know, them being honest, and it's like, you know, we want to develop the game and make it as best as possible. It's like, I think doing the roadmap of, okay, you know, by this point we're wanting to achieve this and we're going to work diligently to get that done and do it healthily. Like, I think that like people will respect that a lot more than corporate shill kind of, you know, like just talking and just trying to like get people's money. It's like, oh, well, you can pre-order now and blah, 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 blah. Right. And like all of that. Right. I think that's not healthy for this game. And I think, you know, if they do it right, they will win people over, because for me personally, like since 343 took over Halo, I have not enjoyed Halo at all.
Fair. Yeah. Like I know we talked about it. I forget if it was on air or off air, but you know, I didn't mind Halo 4 so much, but Halo 5, that other than multiplayer, that game needed work.
Yeah, it's like the storytelling just didn't feel as it didn't feel like Halo to me. Like I don't mind like the direction that they went with the story, but it just felt like someone coming in and trying to tell someone else's story.
Yeah.
And like it just felt off as since 4, like after
Yeah. Yeah.
Reach it's just felt off. And I know like it's not Bungie and we're never going to get another Bungie Halo game, but I think this is a chance for Halo to finally step back up into the place, because I know a lot of like Halo fans feel the same way as I do. Like I love that franchise. There's so many times that I have personally played that game, went to LAN parties, did all of this stuff, and like I listened to all the soundtracks while I drove around when I was in high school. I was that kid and everything. But the Halos that we've gotten, it's like it's just one of those games. It's like I remember it. It's like people with like 007 GoldenEye, like they just remember playing that game. So I'm curious to see what they do with the updates. Like I said, we both kind of stated it's going to be a double-edged sword regardless.
Yeah, and here's my thing with that too, right? Like we probably won't get a new release date till probably summer at earliest. Like they could put it up in April, but I think it'll be June, July before we get a new release date. I'm almost of the mindset like instead of doing monthly right now, do bi-monthly, because it's sort of like, you hear the age-old arguments like while they're making the game and then getting ready for E3, right? They have to take part of their team and focus on making this vertical slice to show off for E3 to make fans believe and to give them a reason to pre-order for day one. And that takes
Mm-hmm.
time away from development. It's like, how much is this going to, like, how much are you worried about these monthly updates that you're going to
Yeah.
take away from making the game? So I'd almost do bi-monthly, and then once you get ready to show like like another trailer, like another gameplay snippet, or put a release date on it, then like in the months leading up from whenever you put the release date on it to release, then start
Mm.
rolling it out on a regular basis.
Yeah, and I think that's a good idea. Did they say that it's going to be a monthly update already, or did they just?
That's what the article claimed. Now, whether they
Okay.
stick to it or not is a whole nother thing entirely.
Yeah, I think I like the bi-monthly, and then like it would elevate, like you were saying, it would crank up as it got closer to the release, and I think that's a good model. But if they are going to do the monthly thing, I think start out slow and don't overpromise. Like
No.
I think that's like in the working world, you want to you want to underpromise and then over deliver. That's
Yep,
how
100%.
everything works in life, is like you underpromise, you over deliver. And game industry usually does the opposite. They overpromise and they underdeliver.
I was just gonna say, then we see the opposite of that. CD Project Red, overpromise, underdelivered.
Yeah,
Way
Watch
underdelivered.
Dogs.
Oh my god! Well, yeah, the first one. Oh my god.
Yeah, so like it's something that game developers, publishers have to realize. It's like, don't lead on the gamers, because they will find other things to play. They will find other companies to give their money with, and it's just something that people have to be very, very careful of. Just like the next story we're going to talk about, upcoming WB games will have heavy focus on live service. Now, live service has developed a lot. I think it's definitely changed over the years, especially since like my holy war against microtransactions for the longest time.
Right.
But I think there is a good balance of what live services can be and what we can actually have in this. Like I think about Star Wars, The Old Republic. Like I've been playing it again. It went from a subscription model to a live service kind of model where you can play for free. You get all your stuff. You're limited on what kind of alien or race you can pick and everything when you start creating your characters. Some things are locked, or it takes a lot longer for you to get that, instead of being a paid subscription part of it. And I think one of the best that does this is Warzone does a really good job, and Fortnite does a really good job of this. And I'm curious to see what they do.
Right. And I was gonna say, I don't know if it's like a technically considered a live service, but DC Universe Online is still going like all these years later. Like I think it just hit its 10-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Oh.
Man, I haven't played that game in forever. I love that
No.
game. I love
Greg
that
Miller
game.
still keeps that game alive, apparently.
Yeah, like I remember getting it and playing it on my PlayStation 3, and man, that it was janky as mess.
I know it was definitely not a thing of beauty, but
No.
and you think about these games that how about this? At least the known games, like we don't know if I know technically CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk is underneath that umbrella, but that has its own issues. So who knows if
Yeah.
that's going to adopt a live service model going forward? But you think about the three big games that well, technically four big games that we know of off the bat that are coming out under WB's umbrella. Dying Light 2, which supposedly that's been getting
Yeah.
hot and heavy rumored release dates for May. So hope and that one would work because we
Mm-hmm.
saw how much like the free content and the drip
Yep.
feed for Dying Light 1 did, and like how they just gave that a labor of love, like how they
Oh,
actually
yeah.
put care into it, and they made that game relevant when, and because the game came out 2015, I want to say, right?
Yeah, it came out. Yeah, it was like 20. It was January of like 2015. I want to say.
Yeah, like in 2015, and here we are 6 years later, and that game is still relevant because they just put out, I think, what was it, a couple months ago, the anniversary edition, which had like all the content included in on the disc. So they keep making that game relevant. So if they adopt that for Dying Light 2, it'll work for that game. But the other games that are coming
Mhm.
out, one of them is the Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker saga.
Oh man,
Like,
I
that'll
cannot
be
wait for that.
interesting. Like, I know, like you've seen all the stats. 300 playable characters, like 20
Mhm.
something planets to visit,
Yep.
and it's supposedly going to be open world. So
I can't even imagine.
yeah, so it's going to be interesting. Like it's an easy thing to do, but it's going to be
Mhm.
unique for a Lego game to do a live service model like that, because they really don't do I mean, some of the games like Lego DC Supervillains and the Lego
Mhm.
Marvel games, because there's so much content to pull from that.
Yeah.
It's easy to make add-on content, but most Lego games don't really have add-on content.
Yeah, and I was thinking like the Lego Marvel games. Like I remember when it first came out, like it was like very open worldy, like on getting to go around New York and everything. And I thought that was really really cool to just get to kind of explore that and everything. I'm wondering how they're going to do that with Star Wars. Like, will it be because I remember like the Complete Saga, which I loved playing. Like, you were on Tatooine and you got to, you were in the cantina, and that's where like all the different bays for the different movies and everything were. And then you can go into the actual cantina part and do different things. You could build your Lego characters, and then you could go outside, and that's where like your gold brick constructions and like just you would like as you unlocked more characters, you would see them like inhabiting the world and everything. So like having 300 characters, that's going to be awesome. I'm curious to see like, are they going to expand? Is it going to be more of Mos Eisley? Are they going to do somewhere totally different? Coruscant would be awesome. Like I think that would be a really cool place. It'd be really hard to do, but having like a big section of Coruscant to explore would be a really cool way to kind of incorporate that.
Yeah, because you always saw it as like a set piece, but never really expanded upon. Like
Mm-hmm.
the most expanded upon it did was, from what I've seen so far, the Clone Wars animated show, but that's been about it.
Yeah, and rest in peace, Star Wars 1313.
My gosh, let's not go there. Let's focus on the Star Wars projects that didn't.
We're being positive. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it'll be easy to do for a Lego game. I wonder like how much they're going to bring in outside of that, like because it's a Skywalker saga, so it's going to be the 9 films, but are they going to pull from Rogue One? Are they going to pull from Solo? Are they going to pull from Mandalorian even? So it'll be interesting. But the other 2 games that
just real quick, I think it would be cool, like they've got all of that lore that is Clone Wars like and Rebels. Like it would be really easy to do add-on stuff with that, and like you were saying, like the different movies and all of that. Like I think it'd be really easy to add on to it. Anyway, I just wanted to add that.
But the 2 interesting games that we got like sneak peeks of last year, Gotham Knights by WB Montreal and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League by Rocksteady. So how are those going to look in a live service? Like, yes, we've seen add-on content for Batman games before, but in a live service model, how is that going to look? Because let me go on a tangent. I know we've been positive, but let me get
I've
on
already
my
zoomed in on you. I've already zoomed in on you, so you're good.
Let me get on my soapbox here about live service. The thing that can kill or can thrive as as with live service games is your dedication as a company to it, because we've seen like Ubisoft made that switch to just live service games like a couple of years ago, and for the most part, like with Rainbow Six Siege, it is succeeding and thriving. But then we see all of a sudden, if a game's not doing well or not a lot of people, like the numbers don't represent like the like keeping up with like
Yeah.
playing the games, like concurrently played games with the content drip, they're going to just
Hmm.
cut it off at the knees. Like we've seen with Division 2, like we saw
Yep.
the Warlords of New York, and we now granted COVID has affected a lot of planning for a lot of these like post, the like
Yeah.
post launch stuff, but after Warlords of New York, we saw like maybe two things of that, and we haven't heard from it since. And it's like, what's the status of that game? Especially since they just made the announcement that we talked about last week about them working on an open world Star Wars game.
Hmm.
Marvel's Avengers. Like we've seen so many live service games that were so hyped up, so like
Yeah.
put like had known properties or known studios behind it that just
Hmm.
were dead on arrival. Anthem being one of it. Now Anthem was not playable, so that's a different beast altogether. But
Yeah.
you see how much like they put a roadmap like almost a year after launch.
Hmm.
Planning out content for a year after like the first year of Anthem's launch. And where's that game now? Like it's still being worked on. Like it's pretty much gone quiet. Like rumor is it's probably just going to do like a relaunch and like No Man's Sky and be done with it. But we'll see. Marvel's Avengers is a perfect case study where it had like, all right, we're going to drop this character, we're going to drop this character with new story, we're going to drop this new hub world, and nothing for months. Like they only first dropped the first playable character, Kate Bishop, in December, and now they just made an
Yeah.
announcement today that they're going to do a war table like mid-February to discuss the Hawkeye content, and that's going to have like story stuff. They kind of tease like World War Hulk behind him,
Hmm.
like in the shot caption,
Yeah.
but live service games are only as good as the dedication the teams have to keeping the games relevant. And
Yeah.
go ahead.
Like my biggest thing about live service games, like there's so many, like it's a trend
Yeah.
that we've definitely seen with the game industry. Like when something's popular, everybody hops on it. It's like, oh well, Fortnite, it's the biggest thing, so let's make a live service game. And like I really enjoyed the Marvel game as a story,
Yeah.
but it's like as soon as I finished it, I'm done. Like I don't want to grind. I don't want to, like the missions that they want you to grind are the most boring part of the game. It's like I only did those like as I was playing through just to level up, so it wasn't a struggle when I played the regular game. And I just think it's like there's so many out there. People only have so much time, and when they do game, they want it to be the most enjoyable possible. They don't, like, I know some people like grinding. I know like that sort of deal, but like when I play, it's like I just want to enjoy what I'm getting to play, and I want to be able to accomplish a good amount so I feel like I didn't waste my time.
1000% agree. And see, and I think part of it, especially with these third party companies, they want to let investors know like, hey, we are in this game for the long
Hmm.
haul. So
Yeah.
here's our roadmap that we have a year out. And
Yeah.
then when you don't stick to it, it kind of looks bad for again, the fans and the gamers and the consumers suffer
Hmm.
because they get ahead of themselves, but they put the cart before the horse essentially.
Yeah.
And that's why we see so many dead plans. Like again, with Avengers, like Hawkeye was supposed to be like in the fall. Like I think and then the raid, like they have this whole raid planned out for multiplayer. And like I'm with you, the story I enjoyed of
Hmm.
Avengers, the multiplayer is just repetitive. Like it's Destiny at that point, and
Yeah.
this is very reminiscent of Destiny 1. Like Destiny is thriving now only because Bungie, I know they broke off from Activision, and that's probably a good thing at this
Oh yeah,
point.
definitely.
But Bungie, like their dedication to putting out yearly content, like even monthly content
Seasonal.
now at this
Yeah.
point, yeah, like is why that game is thriving. That's why World of Warcraft is still relevant in today's time.
Hmm.
Um, if you stick to your guns and believe in the product you're putting out, the live service game model will work. But when stuff starts, like when numbers or concurrent players start dropping and that money doesn't stops kind of like or starts getting hemorrhaged, you hit the panic button way too fast. A lot of these companies do before you're able to see an uptick or maybe a possible upswing if you just put the love, dedication, and time into it. and we're starting to see Avengers like trying to make a revival now by with this Hawkeye content, and then hopefully the raid gets put out, and then
Mm-hmm.
hopefully because there's also rumored that another hub world of Wakanda is supposed to be making an appearance, like they're
That'd
going
be
to put
cool.
that in. So we'll just it's a wait and see. But
Mm-hmm.
whenever I hear live service, I get immediately I start thinking negatively because it's like,
Yeah.
all right, you're just going to put this out, dedicate it to 6 months, and then the game's just going to die.
Yeah.
And the stuff you had planned out is not going to be fulfilled. Basically, unfulfilled promises is what I think of live
Yeah.
service.
False hope. There's a lot of false hope going around.
Yeah.
And like, I, you know, if studios, instead of like, okay, we're going to put out a half-baked game and then we're going to fix it the first 4 or 5 months and then we'll start working on the new content. That's the biggest issue. Like, if, okay, we're putting out day one, the thing works, we'll fix any bugs that needs to, but within the first month, not like, I wouldn't even say a full month, I'd say within 2 weeks of the game releasing, that's when new content needs to be hitting, because people, like, if they're enjoying the game, they're going to play it. They're going to play it as fast as they possibly can, and they want more. And once it gets to that grindy part, it's like, okay, I want to enjoy new things. I want to enjoy, it doesn't even have to be new gameplay mechanics, but it's like, I don't want to see the same map again. I don't want to see the same fighter thing. That's like Marvel Avengers. It was like the same. It was like, okay, you look different, but you fight exactly the same as like this other guy with a different skin.
Reskin, copy and paste.
Yeah, and it's like, if your game comes out and it actually works, and you already have within the first month new content to put out, and then you have that cycle every month, we're going to put out something. We're going to put out a new, new excursions. It could be smaller things to bigger things. You can kind of ramp it up or whatever. Like, it doesn't have to be these big overtures, but it could be something small. So with WB doing this, it's like, I'm curious to see, are they going to do battle passes or, season passes for whatever games, and WB also does Mortal Kombat. And I know we just got Mortal Kombat 11 recently, but I think Mortal Kombat would be a good one to have kind of a battle pass if they don't already have it. That would be.
You kind of see it already doing what most fighting games are doing now. Like, instead of just doing one, like putting out one crop of characters and then waiting a couple years for another one, they're doing multiple fighter passes, multiple season passes to keep that game relevant and to give those developers time to, like, hey, instead of rushing stuff, we can see what people like, and then keep that, stick another pin in that for our next, when we put it out, our next sequel in like years later.
Yeah, and I think the one that did that first was Smash. Like, on the Wii U, they started that kind of trend where they started putting not just like one set, like you were saying. It was like they had the base, and then they put out some, they put out some more, and put out some more. And Smash did a really good job with that, and they've continued doing that. Like, they just put out Sephiroth not too long ago, and Ultimate and everything. And I think, like, you could do a lot of things, but like you said, I get real nervous when they start talking about live services and microtransactions. Like, I just, whoo.
Yeah. And you brought up another pet peeve of mine, like whether it's like online centric game or live service, these companies, like we've seen, EA, they purposely put out a bare bones game. And then with the hope of that first early adopt, like if they show enough to make people adopt early on day one, to buy it, and then they're going to plan out all this roadmap to make sure it's like, hey, we're committed to this game, and then hope that day one sales are enough to bring in all that money to fund the roadmap. Like, they purposely do that, like, as a pretty much like they create their own. Pretty much, it's essentially their own version of Kickstarter. And we see how many Kickstarter campaigns don't go through. Like, the ones that do go through make headlines, but the ones that don't are just left in the ethos.
Yeah,
that makes me mad.
As the old adage, rob Peter to pay Paul.
Exactly, 100%. And see, that angers me even more because you're not only playing with my money, you're playing with the people who make the game's livelihood, because they're banking on this being like the thing that keeps the lights on at their house, that keeps food on the table, and you doing this. with the hope, not the it's if you know that it's going to bring in money, that's one thing. But if you bring it on the thing of hope that
Yeah.
we are going to have money for you down the road, that's not a proper business practice.
No, no, it's not. And especially it's like, when so many developers are having to do crunch, I know that's a big issue in the industry. And it's like they're working so hard, and then it's like, oh well, you might have a job after this launches, because a lot of time it's like they build up the team, it launches, they do maybe 2 months of like, working to fix bugs or anything, and then they start letting people go.
Yeah.
And
it's like,
that's just that's not healthy. That's not healthy for the industry. That's not healthy for the developers that like get hired on. And it's like, oh, well, I moved halfway across the country for this, or I moved here, there. Now it's not as bad with like doing more remote stuff and everything, but it's like you put your hope in that, and then it just gets taken away from you. So I just hope, I know I'm saying hope a lot. I just want the industry to, it's okay to follow some trends, but like just because one thing is successful, like we went through the MMO trend, we went through the RPG trend, we went through the open world trend. Now we're in, we went through the full microtransaction loot box trend. Now we're in the live service trend. It's just like, you've got to be innovative to see that sort of GTA money or that Fortnite money. Like, you cannot just follow, you've got to be the thought leader on this. So
and I understand you want to have that hope of like, oh, we're the next GTA, we're the next Fortnite, or heck, we're even the next Among Us.
Yeah.
But you can't, you also have like, you can say that in the studio, but behind closed doors, like you need to temper expectations and put some realism on it too. It's like, look, it's the old adage, prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. So
I like to hope for the best, and something that I'm hoping for, Derek, something that I'm hoping for is everybody is enjoying this show. And if you have, make sure to like it. Make sure to hit that share button. Be like, hey guys, this is awesome. This is awesome. You need to go watch it and listen to it. And you should go join our Discord server. Link is down in the description. And come watch us on Twitch. But we're not done, guys. There's more things that I'm hopeful for. IO.
where we go.
is going to be making some James Bond games. They're opening up a new studio, and they got a bunch of people hired. And I'm excited for this because I love James Bond, 1.
Yeah.
I love the Hitman franchise, 2. And IO has never disappointed me.
No, especially now, like, for those of you, for the people who live under a rock, IO Interactive works on the Hitman franchise, especially like this new, like they rebooted it, 2016, 2015, and made it episodic. And now it's like the third one just came out last week.
Yep.
And it's already, if you didn't see it this morning, Hitman 3 has already returned on its, has already made enough profit to recoup their spending costs. So,
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it is ridiculous, like how much love, and you've seen it. Like we saw, it was like with the Hitman franchise in general, like it started great. Then the last couple ones, like with Absolution and some of the ones that released on like PS3 and 360 were good, but not as what the predecessors were.
And now, Blood Money, still my favorite. Blood Money
was good, but some of the other ones were like middling at best.
Yeah.
But we've seen, and then so IO saw that and was like, "Hey, let's rethink what we want Hitman to be. Let's put some fresh blood into this, corpse." And
live.
They rebranded it, and they did episodic, which was good, but it wasn't what people wanted from that format. The gameplay was great. The release drip of the content was not so much desired. So when Hitman 2 came out, they just released it all at once, and then still did extras afterward. But then when the news broke about a month ago or so, or earlier this month, that they were working on a 007 James Bond game, while I never played GoldenEye, never played any of the old, I take that back. I think I played multiplayer GoldenEye at a friend's house way back in grade school, but I've never owned it. How about that?
Yeah.
So I've never had a personal stake in 007 or James Bond lore, but them doing it from the Hitman creator makes me think of the
Hmm.
possibilities of what they could turn that into. Like, obviously, they can't do a reskinned Hitman, but
Yeah.
like the thing that stuck with this new trilogy is like just the freedom and exploration to do your
Hmm.
own kind of assassinations and Hitman. Like, hey, the
Yeah.
world is your oyster. Have
Hmm.
fun. And if they even bring that concept into James Bond, it's like, hey, you're a spy. You have unlimited money, unlimited tech, unlimited
Hmm.
resources at your disposal. Have fun. Here's your mission. Just go do what you want.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like for me, like I'm a huge James Bond fan. So like when I heard this, I was like, okay, and like they're not going to use like an existing James Bond actor, which I think is a good choice because like they are going like Daniel Craig's fixing to come out and there's going to be a new one and everything. But I think doing the just having that idea of James Bond, because like one of the coolest things about James Bond is like the tech, the gadgets, the exploration, like trying to figure out like he's not like just I'm going to just shoot stuff because like that's
Yeah.
what like so many other games like it's like I'm just going to shoot stuff because that's what a lot of James Bond games turned into, but it's like the actual spy stuff, like being a detective as well as like being combat ready and everything. One of my favorite James Bond games still is, I love it to death, is From Russia with Love. It was like at the end of the Xbox, like the original Xbox, like generation. That game was so amazing, and it went through like the Sean Connery game and everything. Got to drive the 1965 Aston Martin and everything. Oh, it's so good. But anyway, it felt like you were James Bond, and that's the biggest thing with this. It's like I love Hitman. Hitman definitely has a feeling to it. If they can capture the feeling of James Bond, like you are the person. You are the one that people look to. You can get the job done. Like it is like if they can capture that and all the aspects, not just the shooting, not just this, not just that, that is going to speak volumes to me because like I said, I love the Hitman series, and I love even the more zany parts of it where you're like getting to dress up like a clown or different outfits and all of that. But one of the cool things about James Bond is like he doesn't always go about it the way most people would think, and just
Right.
like with Hitman, like you can go about it so many different ways to
Yep.
take out your targets. So
In fact, after you complete the mission in the later Hitman games, they have a laundry list, and like I think you can see it during the mission too. But it's like
mhm.
here's a laundry list of all the different ways, and
Yeah.
it's like it encourages replay value too because it's like,
Hmm.
all right, oh, I can kill him by using a fish bucket. Let me go see how I can do that properly.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that that's going to be really cool. Just the options of that in a James Bond game. And like, as long as they've got like a good story, that's the only thing that really matters to me. It's like, does it feel like James Bond? Because James Bond usually has a good villain. Like I think of
Yeah.
Skyfall. Skyfall is probably one of the better James Bonds out of all of them.
Hmm.
Just the villain was so good and everything, and like having Spectre or something like that would be awesome to me. So I'm really really excited about it.
One
And
question I do want to ask for you though is
mm,
like, they said, what was it, yesterday or this morning, that if all goes well, because they open, as you stated, they opened up a new studio and are like
mhm,
doubling down on hiring more people, presumably so that way they don't have to focus all resources on that and they can do
yeah,
either another Hitman or whatever their next project is.
mhm.
Um, with them, and then they said it's like, oh, this could turn into a trilogy or a series of
Mhm.
games. Do you worry that they're putting, at least to have a little hint of worry that they're putting themselves like way too far out by saying it's like, all right, let's see how people receive this our first James
Mhm.
Bond and then James Bond game, and then we can go about doing like a series out of it.
Yeah, like I feel like it is them putting themselves over the barrel just a little bit, but it's like you're getting the license to James Bond. It's just like EA getting the license to Star Wars back in like 2015, or however long ago it was. It's
13.
like okay, 13. So it's like you get to make these games. It's like, of course, you're going to plan for the long term. And yes, like for me personally, it was like I would want to see like how people react to it, but I also wouldn't just wait. when the first game gets out there. It's like, well, let's hope it goes well. It's like I would already have like irons in the fire and be getting to like move and that sort of deal. But it's very interesting because like this is one of the first times, like I think some of the games might not have been based on movies or whatever, but this is definitely going to be the first time that is a James Bond, a 007 game that is not tied to an actor, which I think is huge. I think it's huge. So it's going to be interesting to see, like, each Bond has had like his own kind of like swagger and his own kind of like appeal and everything. So I'm curious to see what they're able to create with it. Because like Age of 47, Age of 47 is definitely not James Bond.
No, I know he's the old silent protagonist.
Yeah, exactly. Very dry, very dry. But you know what's not dry, Derek? You know what's not dry? The rumor mill. Man, it is spitting out rumors all over the place. It's all over the place. One of the big rumors this week was a new Knights of the Old Republic game is in the works, but it's not being developed by EA. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and I meant to look at it before I got on, but I forgot to. But I saw this morning that the rumor now is Aspyr ASY or ASPYR Aspyr Media is the one helming the development of that game, which I don't know what they've done really. So I don't know the history, so I don't know if it's good or bad. But yeah, I've never played. I know. I've seen you play SWTOR some. I know you've swore by KOTOR from the Xbox back in the day. In fact, didn't I give you my copies? Because I knew I was never going to play them. And I was like, didn't I give you my copies of KOTOR back when we were in college?
You gave me the first one. That's the one you had.
Okay.
And it was like in pristine condition. And you gave me Dragon Age Oblivion. That's the other one you gave me.
Okay.
Yep.
I knew I gave you several games, and I knew one of them was KOTOR. But yeah. So I know. So you can speak to this more than I can. But I know it's a beloved franchise, like Star Wars lore, definitely. So I know it's going to excite a lot of people. My thing is like, is it going to excite people more that EA is not attached to it? Because it makes sense, because you remember last week or 2 weeks ago that Lucasfilm announced their own gaming division. So you assume it's going to be under that umbrella.
Yeah. Like just looking at Aspyr's games, they're responsible for Civilization 6, Star Wars Jedi Knights 2, Jedi Outcast, and Jedi Knight Academy, which were amazing Star Wars games. Star Wars Racer. They had hands in like Borderlands 2, lots of Civilization stuff.
They have a pretty good pedigree.
Yeah, like okay, so they developed a mod for Star Wars or KOTOR 2, some sort of like update mod, and then okay, so that's interesting stuff right there. I'm just curious like what all is on there, but for me, like back to your question, sorry, I was looking at that. For me, like it is exciting that we are finally going to get to go back to that universe, because I loved 1 and 2, and SWTOR, like I've loved SWTOR, but when it first got announced that it was not going to be Knights of the Old Republic, it was like, why is it not Knights of the Old Republic? Like that was the first thought. It was like, why is this not Knights of the Old Republic? It's like, I want that, but like, BioWare did a good job with SWTOR, but it's not what people fully wanted, to be 100% honest. It's been a great game. People have enjoyed it, but it's not what people wanted. But now getting to go back into that, I'm curious to see like where they're going to take the story. Like, is it further in the future? Are we getting closer to like when Bane was alive, or is it after, or is it in, like I know it says Knights of the Old Republic 3, like it could be Knights of the High Republic. Because Star Wars just launched that whole initiative. They started putting out books, comics, all of this kind of stuff. Like, I could definitely see it's like, we want you to create a game that is in this space that fills out this world, because it is very interesting. Like the Jedi are at the height of their power. They've got a new villain. Like the Sith aren't really around. Like I haven't heard any talk about Sith, called the Nihil, and like this is before like hyperspace travel is like really developed and everything, but they have like the know-how over hyperspace than the Republic and everything. The Republic's smaller, but there's tons of Jedis. So that's a lot of cool stuff. So I would love Knights of the High Republic. Like, that would be dope. It'd be like, yeah, let's do it. Let's train. Let's do all these cool things. Like, that would be awesome. Like, I'm getting stoked over here, guys.
So if you had to commit, like, just picking your brain a little bit, like, because I know you love Star Wars. You played
No,
all
I hate
like
Star Wars.
Oh, okay, cool. Moving on then. But yeah, so like, what would you, as like a fan and player of like these series of games, like, what would if you had like, if they asked you like, Zach, we're gonna give you the idea, like this, the whole premise to this story for KOTOR 3, what is it?
Darth Bane.
Okay.
Straight up. Like,
Hey.
I would do anything for Darth Bane, like, other than renounce Jesus. I would do like
good choice.
being in that, like, that era, because like KOTOR 1 and 2 is before Darth Bane's time period and everything. Yeah. So when like the first book happens, there's like is a huge Jedi Sith war, and like both games took place after a huge conflict. It never took place during a huge conflict. So like, yeah, you might not get to play as Bane. That's totally fine with me. I don't care. But getting to play in that timeline, you're gonna know you're gonna die if you're not Bane. I'm just saying. But like, it would be really interesting, like if you played on the light side, like not all the Jedi die in that book. So that would be a cool way to do it, like doing the Army of Light versus the Brotherhood of Darkness, and like this huge campaign that's spread across multiple worlds throughout the whole galaxy. That would be awesome to me. But also, like, I think the High Republic would be a awesome way to bring it into canon, to fill out the world that they're trying to create right now. Yoda's alive in this time, like they mentioned him in the books and everything of the High Republic. So it would be a really cool way to just kind of bridge the gap between, this is like the Knights of the Old Republic, and now we have Knights of the High Republic. It might not roll off the tongue as easy as KOTOR, but yeah, let's not say that one. High Republic is a little weird.
Yeah. But, and I could have a laundry list of questions to ask you, like what would you like to see in the game, but we still have some other stuff to get to.
Yeah.
But I guess the other thing I'll ask you is, from a gameplay and mechanics perspective, like what's one, like, I know no game is, I know that everyone has like their version of like what a perfect game is, but no game is perfect. What's something from the games that, like, from SWTOR and the two KOTORs, that you would like to see either changed or implemented in this new one?
So like for me, like I never really liked when I first started playing KOTOR, I never really liked the games where it's like, okay, you're waiting and then you pick like your moves and like you can fill up a bar and everything. It's not as like old school as like Final Fantasy. It's not as slow. But I would love like a mix between, because Dragon Age did a really good job of like kind of moving away from that model, but you still could like jump into it. And the first that did that from BioWare was Jade Empire. And I love the combat in Jade Empire. So I think, kind of taking that, it's like you do have all these different skills. Like it would be way easier to play on a mouse and keyboard than like a controller and everything, but I think doing it where it's like more real time, instead of like having to like fill up your bar full of like your different attacks and like let it go and everything, but also having that option, I think would be a really cool thing. So like I think just like more visceral gameplay, like it just feels like when I click this button, my guy goes whack. You know what I mean? Because like there were times where like things got crazy when I was playing Dragon Age, and it's like, okay, I paused the game and I was like, all right, here are my moves. And it's like, okay, I go to my other character. Like there are times when I needed that, because like I was like, I know I'm about to get my butt whooped and I don't do this. But I think, it would be a cool, like, to have that, like bringing that Dragon Age kind of feel with like you can do either or, but it still feels like you're actually like casting the spell instead of just telling the computer, now I cast my spell.
Yeah, so I mean that sounds about to say that all makes sense, especially for the style of game those games are.
Mm.
You know, and didn't BioWare work on KOTOR? Or no, they did SWOTOR, excuse me.
BioWare did KOTOR 1, Obsidian did KOTOR 2.
Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense to implement, like, to carry that over. So I'm excited to see that, and I hope your dreams come true on that one, or at least some of them
Yeah.
do. One thing our dreams will get crushed on though is Vicarious Visions gets merges with Blizzard.
Oh man.
This, like, I told you before we started, I when I first saw this, I'm just like, okay, I thought they were already part of Blizzard and Activision.
Yeah.
Cool,
Yeah.
like good for them. And then I read it, and it's like, oh no, they're taking a Raven Software approach where they're just like, hey, we're in the background, we're doing quality control, but we're not making games anymore, guys. And the Vicarious Visions did the Crash Insane trilogy, and they just put out Tony Hawk 1 and 2, which we talked about on last week's episode that you loved. It was one of your highlights of last year. And now that pretty much is once again, Activision is like doing the thing of like, hey, here's the thing you love. We're gonna kill it.
Yeah, like when you explained that to me, I was just like, they're doing what?
Yeah.
Like very disappointed in that, because like this studio, like with the games that they have worked on recently, has shown like how good they are, like how good they can do with creating not just like there's a difference between a remake and a remaster. A lot of remasters, it's just like, okay, it runs on this new console, but they
An HD port.
yeah, an HD port essentially. But their remakes have been so deep and so amazing. It was just like, wow, this is what it's about. And now it's like, okay, they're getting brought into Blizzard, which hopefully will fix, you know, some things with Blizzard. You know, like I would love to see them work on, you know, like Overwatch 2 stuff. Like that would be awesome, like to see that. But it's like, I don't want it to be like, you know, oh well, here's this game, and like Vicarious Visions never gets like any like applause, because like that Tony Hawk's game and the Crash Bandicoot game like have been amazing. Like they've been, I'm just like just awestruck at like how good they were. But now it's like, okay, now you're going to fix our problem that we couldn't fix ourselves.
Exactly. And like I said, you know, Raven Software used to make games. I think they did the X-Men Legends games back in the day, and now you never
Raven
see their
Software used to do a lot of stuff for Lucasfilm or Lucas Arts.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, they did. I want to say they did the Mercenary games, which were amazing, by the way.
Okay. So, but you know, like to see them and then like you never hear from them again. Like they're just pretty much lost in the ethos. Like they'll have their name attached to it, but it's gonna be they're never gonna put like hands on an actual original property or like their own property again. And you know, Toys for Bob, you know, that used to be, for people who don't know who they are, they used to do the Skylanders games before that series got axed, and now they did the Spyro reignited trilogy, and they just did the recent Crash Bandicoot 4, like the next entry into the Crash Bandicoot franchise.
Yeah.
So it seems like if they're gonna do any more of like the non Call of Duty, non like major like properties of Blizzard and Activision, they're gonna do the smaller ones like Tony Hawk or Crash or Spyro. They're gonna be doing that, and that they did a fine. I haven't played Crash 4. I heard it was pretty good. The Spyro Reignited trilogy was good, but Vicarious just knew how to put that extra attention to detail and love into the one like the Crash and the Tony Hawk remakes, and make those franchises like it was twofold. They made you care about them again, and then they also reminded you of why those games were great back at that time. So the fact that Vicarious is basically being merged into like, yeah, they could still help. Like if Toys for Bob like does another Crash, or like if they're working on the next Spyro game, bringing that franchise back, they could help. But the fact that we won't get a true Vicarious Visions game again is upsetting.
Yeah, like I'm sad about that. And to correct two things that I've said wrong so far in this episode, Raven Software did not do the Mercenaries Playground of Destruction, which is done by Pandemic Studios.
Okay.
I haven't heard that name in a long time. And if you haven't played Mercenaries Playground of Destruction, it was amazing. It's on PlayStation 2. You should go get out your PlayStation 2 and check it out. The other, I said Aspyr did the Star Wars Jedi Knight Academy series. That was Raven.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
they also did X-Men Legends, X-Men Legends 2, Rise of the Apocalypse, Quake, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, X-Men Wolverine Origins, which the movie sucked, but the game was
Game was
phenomenal.
great.
My God,
Yes.
it was so good. Wolfenstein and Singularity, like the old Wolfenstein, like but
Yeah,
not
like
machine
2009,
games.
I think. Yeah, like
Yeah,
2008, 2009. So,
but
yeah, and then
Singularity, oh man,
yeah,
that was so good.
I remember you talked up that game too back when we were in college.
Yep, and you see what I'm saying. You started playing Alan Wake, and you're like, man, Zach actually knows what he's talking about when he's talking about good games.
you, I'll give you that one.
Yeah, I'm right. I'm right.
But yeah, so we'll see. Hopefully, Activision doesn't make any more bonehead moves. But they're a big
Yeah,
corporation like EA. That again, expect the worst, hope for the best.
yeah. We're sad. We're sad for Vicarious Visions. We do hope that they have the best, but something that we're excited about to see coming actually today. The Animal Crossing update is today. We're recording on January 28th. This is the new update, and it is the Festival update, which is Carnival, like they have like down in like Brazil and everything. But a lot of new stuff that is being added to the game. Instead of like snowflakes, you're going to be able to get like peacock feathers that you can use to get different items in the game. There's like a dance pad or something that's going to be added to like your town square. A lot of cool stuff. I'm excited to go explore that. Me and Amy's been playing a lot of it. But then next month, I'm really curious to see how this is all going to play out. Mario is somehow going to be tied into Animal Crossing because, Mario Day and all of that.
Well, it's one thing because technically this is still the 35th anniversary of Mario, and a lot of their content that they announced back in late summer, early fall is going until end of March. Or like a lot of the content's going to be going on like at the events till like March 31st. So it makes sense, especially since Animal Crossing has been such a huge, it's arguably Nintendo's game of this year or this last year.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of surprised now. Of course, they can always come out like later and say, all right, because this is just like their festival events,
Yeah.
but they haven't talked about their month event yet. So it's kind of curious that they're not going to do anything Valentine's related for next month, but
Yeah.
they could still like talk about that like February 1st or whatnot.
Yeah. I'm not sure how long they're going to have the festival content available and everything, but I watched the little Nintendo video on it and everything. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then they like hinted at Mario, like they had like the star and then like the mushroom, and I'm like, I wonder what that's going to like all entail with what's going to actually go on.
I'm sure you can probably build your own like a mushroom house or like do like costumes or like you do DIY stuff that revolves around the Mario universe. Like
Yeah.
Animal Crossing again is another one of those oyster things where it's like it's just your playground. They can do whatever they can. It's really easy to port content into that.
Oh yeah, like it'd be awesome to like have like a Mario outfit, get Cappy from Odyssey,
Well, yeah, that'd be great.
That would be awesome, like get blocks. You could build blocks or whatever, because like you get like stone and all of that, so like the actual blocks that you see like in Mario, like you can put those up in your house or something. Like there's a lot of stuff, and I'll be very curious to explore that, and we'll definitely be streaming that when it comes out for sure.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, there is the news that you need to know. We hope that you enjoyed the episode. Make sure to check us out when we're live over on twitch.tv/nerdcamnetwork and the times we go live on YouTube as well. We love YouTube, but we stream over on Twitch. So there you go. Yeah. And you can go support us over at patreon.com/nerdcave. Go toss us a few dollars and, be an awesome supporter. You get options to ask questions for the show and be a part of it, all that good stuff, and you can be awesome like all the cool people that have supported us, like Brandon Hicks, Richard Newell, Martin Sager, Brittany Harrison, and Marilyn James. So thank you, all of our Patreon supporters. We appreciate you. and we'll dance at your wedding. If you've already married, then we danced at your wedding. You just didn't notice us.
We were there. We were there in spirit.
Yes, we did the river dance, and you asked us to leave. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Derek, glad to have you back, man.
Thank you for having me again, man. So it's always a pleasure.
Yes, and guys, if you want to see more of this content, make sure to do all the cool stuff and share this with somebody that you love. This has been Zach.
Derek.
With what did I don't remember what I say here. With Nerd Cave. There we go. We'll do it live, guys. With Nerd Cave. Y'all have a blessed week. Bye.